and power in the blood of the Lamb.
Jesus, his friends had gone to sleep, the people that he trusted in. It started the process of a type of stress that no man should have to endure. He had been betrayed. Of course, they didn't know it fully yet, but he knew when he asked them the question. And they wondered what he spoke of, and now it was coming to pass. It was starting. The stress of it all, the thought of what he was going to have to endure and go through. Physiologically, he knew the trauma that he was to endure, the cross. He knew the cat of nine tails was next. He knew that he was going to be hit and beaten and stabbed. He knew psychologically that these things were going to happen. And so before, we would have thought that it would have come from a type of violence, but there was a violence that had already started in his heart. There was a violence that had already started in his mind. And so no one had to touch him to draw blood. It was the thought of what he was going to have to endure. It was the capillaries bursting with his sweat glands and mixing it to where it looked as if he was a bloody mess. The psychological trauma of knowing that you cannot escape what's ahead of you. He knew, and this could have been the reason why he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He knew he was going to have to make that sentence soon come to fruition. And maybe he knew because this was the start of the type of trauma he was going to have to endure from the people that he loved. I can see why he said, "Father, forgive them," because he knew. Now was the moment that he feared. It was a scourge. It was the moment where they ripped into his flesh with the cat of nine tails, each end, each tail having a heavy piece of maybe metal or rock or lead, causing the bone to drive deeper into his flesh, ripping out 2-inch pieces of flesh at a time to the point where his spine would be showing because they had ripped away so much tissue and muscle. From your shoulder to your heels, you would be hit repeatedly over and over and over again. He would have been going into shock at this moment, his body wanting to end it all. He still was able to forgive the thief on the cross one of his last 7 words and told him that you'll be with me in paradise. It shows the humanity of Jesus. Nails driven through not his palms but his wrists, separating bone from skin and tissue, hanging him on this cross. Nails through bones in his ankles that were never supposed to be penetrated by metal. A rugged cross rubbing roughly against his back that had already been exposed and beaten. He's in the fight of his life on this cross for you and I. He can't breathe. In order to breathe, he has to pull himself up just to get a breath. Even in this moment, he looks at his mother, he looks at his brother John and says, "Mom, behold, your son." Even in this agonizing moment, he thought it better to care for others than himself. This wasn't about just a spear going into a side, it was surgical. It was the moment where the story told on itself. He had suffered from fluid building up around his lungs at this point and around his heart because of heart failure. And when the spear hit his side, It testifies of blood and water coming out, which shows exactly what his body was going through. This was surgical. It gives the reality of why he looked to heaven to say, my Father, why have you forsaken me? No one should have to endure this type of pain, but he did. This was an autopsy. It was not a help, the same as when he put vinegar to his mouth. This was a moment to make sure that he was dead.
The blood that Jesus shed for me, way back on Calvary.
The death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. It was over. It was finished. If this was any other man, to bring him back, you would have to use multiple pints of blood. You would have to put him through multiple surgeries. You would have to do the unthinkable and the impossible. But this wasn't any mere man. We're talking about Jesus. He didn't just survive the anatomy of the cross, he defeated it. This wasn't some medical recovery. This was molecular rebellion. This was his body saying, I am not just man, I am God. This was him saying, I've come to redeem my children. This was him saying, devil, you lose. This was him saying, hell, you have no option but to bow down to the power of God. This was victory. Oh, death, where is your sting? Oh, grave, where is your victory?